I can't hear you folks. I'm not sure. Got the volume on.
It might be one of those things where you have to log out and sign back in. I do run into that one. So
I'll turn the red light back on if you want to try that. I don't think that's.
Oh, does Rebecca, can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, Peter, can you hear us?
Yes.
we
Okay,
just
we
can't hear them.
We just can't hear it. Well, Rebecca's muted. Peter, we can't hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna go to chat.
Do we have the volume up on home?
Does that need to? There's a plus minus on it.
Yeah. Just hit that plus.
Okay.
No, it's great. So Peter, can you speak again?
Sure, I'm right here.
Hear everyone now.
Sorry.
Welcome.
Exactly, that's my basic there too.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great, terrific.
So we do have,
Muted. I don't think Rebecca can still hear us.
oh, sorry. Again, she nodded, I think. She did. Okay, we're gonna go around and do introductions because we do have some new members and some changeover. I'll start. My name is Autumn Spear. I'm the planning director for the town, staff, long range planning committee, planning board. And then Helen just stepped out, but Helen Hartman is the development review planner for the town. We'll keep going.
Karen Martin, I'm the executive director of the Scarborough Economic Development Corporation. So we service the town's economic development department.
Hi, I'm Michelle Hayes. I'm on the town council since November, and I also have lived in Scarborough for 33 years.
Corey Fellows, I'm the town council chair, previously served on this committee back in the day, so still feel a good connection. I've lived in Scarborough since '04.
Marie Katerina. I was on the town council for years and years, it seemed like 10 years. I now serve as Cumberland County Commissioner, representing Scarborough and several other towns. I'm here as a citizen, and I like to say I represent the other side of the turnpike where nobody ever goes in Scarborough, and bring that perspective, this group, and I've been on this group. I was on it as the town council, and I was happy to continue serving, but now as a citizen, so thanks.
Robin Saunders, born and raised in Maine, northern and mid-coast Maine, moved to Scarborough after graduate school in '98, and was I'm an engineer by trade from the University of Maine, and I was in private consulting for 17 years before I transferred to the public sector. I've been working in the public sector for 10 years now. God, time flies. And I served on the planning board with Corey Fellows and Rachel, who's no longer with us.
She's with us.
And I was originally the planning board liaison for this committee, and then I resigned from the planning board. It was just too much when we had 17 items per meeting. I just couldn't keep up because I can't help myself but dig into the projects. And, but then came back as just a long-range planning committee member. Thank you to the, council for that.
Oh, excuse me. I'm Judy Fisher. I'm an alternate here. My background is in journalism. I worked on newspapers in Suffolk County, New York. I was an science and environmental writer. I also worked for the Suffolk County Executive, writing his reports, hearing reports, speeches, press releases, specifically on all issues relating to the county, housing, sewering, everything. And I moved to Piper Shores 7 years ago, and here I am.
My name's Ed Hodgson. I was born in Scarborough and then family moved to Hollis and now bought a house 8 years ago. My husband and I bought a house on Gorham Road. Similar to Jean Marie, I'm at 435, so yes. And my background is in marketing. Right now I have my own company, Hodgson Consulting, that does association management and governance. So I run executive director of two trade organizations, one for the amusement parks and attractions industry in New England and New York State. And then I run the Maine Beaches Association, which is the regional destination marketing organization for York County.
Cool.
Thank you.
Peter?
Sure. My name, excuse me. My name is Peter Freilinger. I live on the part of town where really no one ever goes to, which is Blue Point. And have lived there for almost 7 years now. Before that, I was a classic Maine boomerang kid. I graduated from Cape High in '91, went to college away, and then worked in San Francisco, Seattle, New York, London, you name it, for 25, 26 years before I came back. My parents live on the other side of the marsh. They moved to Scarborough in '98 from Cape. I also serve as the chairman of the zoning board. And that's a lot of fun. My dad was the chair of the zoning board in Cape Elizabeth for 10 years, so I come by that honestly. And as a profession, I've got over 30 years in banking, and I specialize in balance sheet and balance sheet management and strategy, as well as bank failures and resolution and recovery planning. So if you have a bank that's in trouble, give me a call.
Thanks, Peter. And Rebecca?
Hello, I'm a law student at Maine Law, which is very exciting. I just have a kind of a personal interest in real estate, technically a real estate agent, and I also have a rental that I enjoy. And excited to get started. I'm kind of new to Scarborough. I've only been here for a couple of years, but my husband's family has been there basically forever. So excited to get involved. Oh, and I do have to pop off a little bit early because I have a class as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Rebecca. Welcome. All right. So with all that, and everyone knows everybody, now we need a chair. So,
And Autumn, real quick, with new members and everything, who is a voting member? Who's an alternate? What's the new stack?
sure. So we have Jean Marie Katarina, Peter Freilinger, Portia Hirschman, Ed Hodgson, and Robin Saunders are our members, and then Judy and Rebecca are our alternates.
Okay, yeah, because Portia mentioned she was an alternate. It's like, no, I don't think you are anymore. So okay, great.
Well, she's been a full member for a while.
Yeah.
She's the only one not here today, so we have a good group.
Gotcha.
And so just a little bit, we had a chair and a vice chair that have been on this committee probably for over 20 years. Council instituted a term limit. Thank you. A couple of years ago. 8 o'clock's not my best. Term limits a couple of years ago, and so several of our long-term members have turned out over the committee. So they were our chair and our vice chair. So we have to move forward and put a new chair and vice chair in place. This, I will say, typically what I do, the chair role is really running this meeting, facilitating that. There's not a ton of outside of this meeting work to do. We usually communicate a couple of times and go over the agenda. Staff typically does most of the work, so it's not a big lift, if that helps with the nominees. I'm open to all suggestions.
Who wants to be chair?
I don't know.
Anybody?
If you guys want, since we do have member, if you want to wait and talk about it amongst yourselves, maybe, and think about it, we can do it next month too, if you want.
Or maybe people could have a chat with you between now and then to
Yeah,
kind
if
of get into
anybody
the weeds a little bit with it.
wanna
And
find
Yeah,
out
why
more.
don't we do that so we
Yeah.
can get to know each other sort of, and
Okay,
I'm gonna say right away that. There's no way I wanna be chair, nothing personal, it's just I'm chairing a couple of
Sure,
county level,
yep.
state level things, so it's like,
And
I'm good.
I think for the rest of us, that's good information too, January.
Yeah,
Knowing your tenure with the town.
Yeah.
I would want to, I
Yeah.
mean, I might be interested. I just need to understand sort of how it will work and what the time commitment is a little bit, as I am still 24 hours a week at work, coming back from a major surgery kind of a thing, so I need to ease into it a little bit, but I'm also looking at Peter and Portia, who are
yeah,
esteemed members as well, and give, especially with Portia being traveling, hear what her wishes are, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
And on a personal level, I appreciate my friendship with her and want to check with her.
Yeah, so let's just, here,
Yeah, for my 2 cents, I'm happy to raise my hand. I am chair of the zoning board, and I'm not sure if that's an odd one to be chair of both of those. That does seem a little odd. But I probably, if Portia were here, I'd probably be looking at her too, Robin. So
Yeah.
yeah, if we could maybe reach out to her in the off season and see if she'd be up for the role.
okay. So we will put this off until next month.
and Autumn needs two people, so a chair and a vice chair, so just putting that out there. Don't just pick one person.
Yeah, and if
Alright.
Portia is chair, I'll definitely raise my hand as vice chair. I think that's
there you
done.
go.
Wait, I wanted to be.
Well, you can start making gifts and promises this way when you're ready.
Love it.
Too much with my. You just can't have it.
We have the same in conservation. Everybody wanted to be the vice chair.
Yeah.
I wanted to be the chair. All right, so our next agenda item is the meeting minutes, and these are the meeting minutes from December 12th. And Peter, I was able to update your comment, and even repost it in the new software, so I was excited that worked.
Oh, okay. I did check the new one, but if that one's in, I would move to approve.
And do we have a second?
Second,
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't in the December meeting and I haven't had a chance to look at the recording, so I'll abstain.
All right, so I've got Jean Marie Caterina. I'll just do a roll
Oh,
call
yes.
since we have members on. Jean Marie Caterina, yes. Peter,
Yes.
Portia's out. Ed, you weren't here. Robin's abstaining. Judy?
yes,
Yes, okay, great, thank you. So the way we work these, we have public comment built into the meeting, and we have a time for general public comment for anyone who wants to speak on things that are not on the agenda. So Alan and I worked the agenda in this way, and it's been working pretty good. It's always up for consideration to change. But usually what I'll do is I'll go to we don't usually have people in person, and sometimes there'll be people online that want to speak, but I do not see anyone online, so we will move on to the next item. So the next item I have for your agenda is to review town council goals. And those are printed out for all of you. I won't spend a lot, this is more for your information, just so you know, this group, we do a lot of different things. We've been working on a project for the past several months, and we'll probably continue that for the rest of the year. But we can be all over the place sometimes based on council goals and requests that come. So long range takes a look, our primary focus is implementing the comprehensive plan and the things that, but implementing the comprehensive plan can be looking at a vulnerability assessment recommendation, it can be tweaking the zoning ordinance, it can be a lot of things. But I just wanted you all to be aware of these, and then we do have the two counselors here if you have any specific questions.
They also arrived in your tax bills yesterday, so I'm sure
Oh,
everybody
yes.
read them at dinner last night anyway. But if you have any questions, we're happy to field them.
So does anyone have any questions about those? I think the ones that you will see the planning department will be involved in, and you all, I can definitely see some input, will be LD 1829 responses, the new state law that's set to go into effect in July. That really has some impacts on how our zoning is written and how we basically for single family homes. And then this idea of inclusionary zone, I think that would definitely, if it comes to it, would definitely be a place for us to offer some input. And then rate of growth ordinance updates, modifying the comprehensive plan. So you all might have a very fluid agenda instead of to-dos this year based on these.
And don't forget that addressing traffic, detour is like Gorham Road.
That,
Yes.
that's all transportation committee.
Oh, no.
That's next
No.
week.
What's actually came up a lot in Scott Old Hill, counselors.
The Gorham Road?
Just west side of Scarborough and access and crossing the
Gorham.
roads and, yeah.
Yeah. I'm between Beach Ridge and Running Hill. I
I
see
know
it.
exactly.
Yeah. My chain link fence gives it away.
No, I've knocked on your
Oh.
door.
Oh, have you? Oh,
probably one of
okay.
these things, yes.
Okay.
I do have a question about LD 1829.
Yeah.
I don't know what the current direction of travel is for final regulation for that law or potential amendments to that law. But at some point, when will we get into the weeds of what we have to do to specifically the R2 district, which we already have on our agenda to look at, and what will be what is our expected schedule for that?
I'll probably start working on updates and amendments to consider in May. There's a July 1 kind of implementation date. But there's a fixed bill right now, 2173, that there are discussions, and so that won't come out of session until April. And so
Okay.
I want to wait until that. to
Yeah,
figure
and I'll
out-
just quickly add, for those who maybe haven't been following it as closely, that fixed bill, there was supposed to be a public hearing on that this past week. Town Manager Tom Hall, Councilor Kane, Councilor Anderson, Police Chief Kinlan were all prepared to testify. And the council had authorized the town manager to testify
For
with some
Well.
for modifications,
change
Yeah.
and potential implementation delay to allow for preparations depending on how it comes out. But as sometimes happens in Augusta, they got caught up with other things. There was a whole long discussion about ranked choice voting that kind of took up the whole day. So they ended up canceling and it's been rescheduled. The hearing's been rescheduled for next week. Point being that as Autumn said, that fixed bill is working its way through. So it's possible that one of the outcomes could be the implementation of whatever comes out gets pushed back. That would obviously have implications
Right.
for staff's work
Yeah.
and this group's work. But I think it's probably safe to say that, something's still going to come out and there's still going to be a lot of work required to kind of backfill the town's ordinances to comply.
Has anyone done a fact sheet? Or like has MMA put out anything on this?
This is,
We-
SM, I don't know, Southern Maine Planning, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
has a really good fact sheet.
Yeah.
And been the most helpful, I think, really
I-
easy to follow.
The other thing I would say too is, after our reps came with Speaker Vecco, we got some information from Sophie Warren about how to sort of best approach, sort of responding to the Fix-It bill. And we did a lot of that, and we've had a number of other towns reach out to us to partner with us because Tom and the group kind of took the lead on it. And I know Brunswick reached out, we partnered with Westbrook, and I met with Christina from DB yesterday. And she really talked about trying to continue to galvanize sort of the region. Because a lot of folks have the same issues. And one of the bigger things is when you take a look at what's happened, Scarborough's been #1 in the state, and there are towns around us that have like 5 or 6 have produced 0 affordable housing units in the last 5 years.
Right.
And, you know, one town has authorized 13 building permits, and we authorized 261 in the same period. So our take is we're really not all starting at the same point. And is there a look back on a dashboard to say, you know, different expectations out of the gate, not maybe long-term, but out of the gate on where people are starting. So there's been a lot of work with Tom and the council, and Autumn certainly has been critical in providing that data.
So glad to hear that council is so engaged in this. So glad.
Well, the first, the 1829 as adopted essentially removes our ability to have a rate of growth ordinance. The fix-it bill
Right.
puts that back in, and so that was a really big win, I think. And it'll be great to keep that
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Or any type of self-determination.
Mhm.
And I would say that the inclusionary zoning goal that Autumn mentioned is somewhat related to that, because they're part of the response to 1829 is that 1829 was ostensibly intended to facilitate affordable housing, but there's nothing in it
Right.
that specifically requires affordable housing. You could make a broad argument that more supply eventually will reduce prices, but it's not a direct line. So there was some discussion at
Yeah.
council about at least entertaining inclusionary zoning as a way to
Yeah.
more directly target that.
But inclusionary zoning has its own challenges.
Yeah.
Right.
Speed on that.
And candidly, there are some people I think who support it because as has been seen in Portland,
Yeah.
sometimes it just
Hamstring.
makes it
Mhm.
very difficult
Yeah.
to
To do
develop
anything,
anything.
yeah.
And I personally don't support that kind of, cynical approach to it, but to be continued,
Hmm.
yeah.
And just so you folks will know, that the county, because people tend to forget the county, they go to GP the county, we're also involved in this. We haven't taken a stand as Cumberland County on LD 1829, but we're certainly aware of, and we've been working on getting towns like in my district, because I go all the way up, the western side of the county up to Bridgeton. That's what I represent. And we were working with Bridgeton. I don't know what's going on right this moment on building affordable housing. And there was some leftover ARPA money from the feds that we were going to use. And the county owns some land that we've been eyeballing too for affordable housing that's in those outer areas, because it's a problem out there. And people don't realize that not every homeless person comes to Portland.
Right.
They're also out in the woods, in the barns, and the whatever. So, just to keep you guys aware of that too. So
That's good.
Peter has his hand up. Peter?
Yeah, I guess I'm interested in, as Robin indicated, a fact sheet on in particular the Fix-It bill, and in particular those elements that would generate changes to our zoning ordinance. This group doesn't really generally talk about the growth, a growth limitation or the growth permitting. We're talking about the zoning ordinance itself, and what that does. So for this committee, and also selfishly for the zoning board, I think I would be very interested in seeing a fact sheet that is focused on ordinance changes rather than on zoning ordinance changes, excuse me, or zoning ordinance limitations, rather than being broadly writ for the very important and very hot button issue of growth or of growth permitting.
Peter, I have a spreadsheet that we have, I don't know, there's like 25 LDs that I have a list of all the things that have to be fixed for all of them. Like I'm going through some right now for childcare uses and just some updates. I can send that out. I can clean it up a little bit.
That'd be great. That would
I
be
just don't
terrific.
want it to be shared because it's like it's not anything crazy. It's just, you could have a lot of questions
Yeah.
if you didn't know what.
Yeah.
Sure.
Come on.
Nope, understood. but Autumn, that'd be very helpful. I'd appreciate that.
Okay, yeah, because there's, just all the different, sections.
And it's a
Autumn,
tremendous amount of work. Thank you for sharing
Mm.
that.
Can you remind me, is the proposal for an infrastructure grant program or funding program, that's separate from the current fixed bill, or was that included in it?
That's separate.
Separate,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that struck me when I was at the housing conference and it was said, hey, we're looking at 75 million. And I thought, okay, so that's for us. What other town needs that
Well,
75 million?
Yeah, that's
is
what they're
crazy.
doing up there. They're just throwing a few dollars here, a few dollars there. Just so you guys will know, I'm the state chair for legislative policy
Mhm.
for the county commissioners throughout the
Mhm.
state. So I see all this stuff coming through and I'm going. And then the stuff we're dealing with jails, jail funding and ICE and
Yeah.
all that. In that world.
Jean Marie,
Hold on a sec. And the thing is that I see a lot of that legislation coming through, so I'll keep an eye, and if I hear any rumors too, because I talk to a lot of people. I like it.
Jean Marie, does your group send out information, just like countywide information? I know like the one thing that got me onto the GP Falcon was the report she sent out looking at 2020 to 2024 and all the activity, sort of in that cohort group. But is there
Well-
something broader from a county, like full county perspective?
This, my group is state, it's
Yeah.
the whole state with all 16 counties. And I can say no at the moment. I'll be blunt with you that, imagine that the, county commissioners are undergoing great change in the state. They tend to be places where legislators go to die. I didn't say that. And they're all older and whatever, and I'm older. But we've got some new blood coming in, so you're gonna see some changes. So my answer to you is probably no.
Okay.
Yeah. But that, and I'm sorry.
no, and the point I was going to make that I think, the regional planning offices are really the engine for those types of reports, but I see, and the point I was going to make is that Cumberland County can really, not necessarily leverage, but definitely lobby for a lot of the funding
That's what I was.
that's gonna be needed to
Right.
pay for these
Mhm.
reports that are coming out of the regional planning offices. Because they have the direct
Right.
line to both the state and the feds.
Mhm.
The county,
Mhm.
you would hope so, but really the feds. I didn't say that either.
Let's talk offline, yeah.
All right, anything else on council goals?
We're still on line one.
The no interest in expanding or establishing a new TIF district or CEAs. How often are new TIFs and CEAs contemplated currently?
Mhm.
How often?
Not very, they are occasionally, and then sometimes it comes up with projects, sometimes it's about looking at a wider area and trying to capture any anticipated growth. We have very few TIFs in this
Right.
town, very few, I
Like how
think
many?
3, maybe. Not counting, I'm sorry, not counting affordable housing TIFs, there's 3 economic development ones.
So like the Downs,
The Downs, Highest Parkway, which is probably closing out
Yeah,
in the
that's
next
big.
year. And we had one left over at
Okay.
no, the development
Dunstan.
Science Park.
Science.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. It was a very small one. It was to fix a piece of infrastructure.
So we generally see those as not a resource for.
I think if I can just really generally speak for the council, I think that the overall sentiment was given the current climate around growth and a lot of the feedback that we got, particularly last summer around the Marshview project and Dunstan tip, that it was appropriate to express that it's not a blanket
Right.
prohibition. There's nothing like that's truly binding about it, but felt appropriate to express that, to kind of signal that that's not something that the council wants to go out of its way to do, at least this year. We can't anticipate what may or may not
Right,
happen or what
right.
might come in front of us, and we're obligated to review
Yeah.
anything that might come in front of us. But it was really kind of just a recognition of this moment we're in with the
pause.
growth concerns in 1829 and just a little bit of a pause.
Did council take a stand on contract zones at all?
I think too, to add to Corey, I agree with everything he said. And I think some of it was triggered frankly by traffic. And just the traffic dilemma that, people felt at, Dunstan already.
Right.
And then just trying to sort of accelerate and exacerbate the issue that people are already dealing with. And I think the second piece was looking not so much at affordable housing, but just at Scarborough is where people want to be. And do we really need to incent people to want to be here when people keep coming? So I think it's being more surgical about where that would happen. And not just, we're never going to do it again.
And I think the pause gives us time to, I think, do a better way of explaining the value of tips and what tips do, and have everybody on the same page on, have we benefited and what are we doing with it? Just a little bit of a pause for education and making sure that people know what's possible.
Right. And without going into the weeds, because we don't want to have a
Yeah.
Right.
meeting.
Right.
But this, I think, and I think it's going to be somewhat spotlighted during this budget season.
Yeah.
The potential value of sheltering
Right.
value.
Mhm.
And when you look at how the county does things, and
Oh, yeah.
I think there's a tendency, understandably, in the general public to equate TIF with incentives for developers, but there are some legitimate sheltering benefits for the town.
And we'd love to tax you to the max.
So, but yeah, I think all, that's all.
One
that's all
last
that.
question, and then I want to move to the vulnerability assessment. What are the general splits for the TIFs? Are we 50-50?
No, no, the Downs is 40. I don't remember what Higas Parkway was, because most of Higas Parkway was a TIF to pay us back for investment that the town made.
Yeah.
The only TIF part of that was for Gateway, the shopping center. And I don't think, that whole property, and it did include, it's a long history. It included originally some area on the other side where the apartments are.
I get
And
it, so it's
yeah.
retroactive, it's not necessarily.
Right, and again, it's ending, and I think the good news is we finally paid ourselves back
Yeah.
over the life of that project. So for a while it was like, but now it's up and running, and it's paying us back for the bonds that we passed originally to put the services in at Higas Parkway.
Great, and moving on to the vulnerability assessment, I know that there's like 30 roads, that by 2050, are gonna be in peril. And seeing our track record with, what's that road over there? Elizabeth?
Sawyer.
Yeah, I still put my offer out to go knock on Finn Sprague's door and say, your family's been using it for 300 years, so how about you pay for it? And all the work that staff put into that project, I think we need to put some more, education and awareness in the general public to our vulnerabilities. Being on that vulnerability assessment ad hoc committee, and seeing, a lot of commercial properties at risk, a lot of transportation at risk, and knowing that, coastal resiliency right now, I work for an inland town, so there's not much money for inland towns, but there's still money for coastal towns.
Yeah.
So I think we need to really make the general residents aware of what's happening, and especially considering my time on the planning board, all the flooding increases that we've seen as we fill in the wetlands, and and everybody has a legal permit to do so, but there are consequences for these things. And there are consequences that the marsh will pay, and eventually human health will pay. So I just want to put it out there that that's my perspective. So where is council on sort of understanding these vulnerabilities and our responsibility for resiliency?
Well, this actually just a few hours ago over at
Last
Public
night.
Safety, last night, we had a session on Scottle Hill Road, and that was another example. Some similarities to the Sawyer situation. But I think there is a real understanding and a realization, growing realization, definitely on the council, and I think that's gonna have to continue to be a conversation with the general public about the fact that the baselines are not, the baselines are no longer relevant in all cases, and that it's a moving target and that things are changing around us. And so we have these conversations with, just like with Sawyer and Scarborough Hill, where, well, we've used that road for generations and it's vital. But there's also a realization that we can't, the things are flooding more, and we have to factor that into our infrastructure planning and we've had those conversations, as you may recall, on Sawyer about, like, just thinking about fiscal.
That's where I was headed, Corey, economic
Right.
analysis.
And
Economic
what
analysis.
we're increasingly, I think, gonna have to pick our spot. So I do think there is a real awareness of that on the council, that as we think about traffic and infrastructure, that we have to factor that in, and we may have a prioritized list of what are the most vulnerable, but then something like Scottle Hill jumps to the head of the line because of a culvert fails.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and the money doesn't fall out of the sky.
yeah.
Well, one of the things
Yeah.
too, to add on to that, some of the financial discussion is, so we have Scottle Hill, which is a crisis. So we have a couple different cost models for that and options.
Yeah.
Well, meaning if it's shut down, it's like, what do we do? And then you take a look at how that impacts Payne Road. So then do you do Payne Road with Scottle Hill? And there might be some economies of scale on that, but then you go out and it might be like a 3 million, I don't know what the number is, it's big. And then that's, where do we get the money? Is it taxpayer? Do we get money from, the state? And then we took a look at, where do things prioritize? So we might have, 40 roads in town that are on our study, and there are many above that. I live off Lennox Neck, and it's like, I don't know, like in the top 5, and it's an evacuation route. So should that be prior? So we are having those discussions, and I will say that Tom and his staff have been looking very aggressively at monies and grants. And, if we combine some grant money with some town money, we can do this. But if we really want to include other areas in the same work, then we need to go out to the town. So we're having those discussions pretty regularly.
Great. And my point that I was trying to make is sort of getting, because, like you're saying, we've got to hit the crises.
Yeah.
We got this crisis, we got that crisis. I'd like us to look at the 30,000 foot when we talk about the removal of tax base from these properties that are not roadways, kind of thing, that are gonna go away, and the jobs. And we look at all of the roadways at one time and understand the economic analysis so that it feeds into that. Oh, we have $75 million. That's good for Scarborough. What's everybody else gonna do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if every town got together and started doing this type of economic analysis, or maybe on a regional, stop me if we've already talked about this or somebody has already moved forward on this, but I would hope that someone's moving forward on an economic analysis of what this means, and maybe report to the main office of community affairs, because that's where I'm thinking the county comes in, because I know they were trying to feed MoCA some money, some estimates on how much should be requested from the federal level. And we're not gonna have this federal administration forever. Sooner or later, it'll come back around, and really, trust me, we've all seen the pendulum swing. It'll swing back. I work in brownfields. We're just coming off record funding from, the previous administration, and it's tough to come back to, oh, we gotta do $200,000 projects instead of $4 million projects. So I want us to be ready. Let's be thinking about the next administration, and let's like use that as our fuel to think about how much money we're gonna.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say to that question. Some of that, Sedco's looking at a capacity analysis, Sedco is looking at a capacity analysis. Like, what vacant land do we have out there? What are the constraints? And, really what the potential is. And I don't think, it may be beyond our expertise, but not beyond the sustainability committee's expertise to look at, hey, if we identify all this land, what are the, we're reaching out to talk about what are those constraints, but we're working on some of what you're talking about, but taking it
Let's
to that
just get
next level.
Together, who are also
Yeah.
working on partner or parallel
Mhm.
numbers and feed them to the county
Yep.
and the feds.
Yeah, but yeah, Autumn and I've started looking at where the vacant land and, what's available and what that zoning is, so.
So I have a question, it has to do with the Environmental Quality Review Acts at the state, county and town levels, and aren't we required to do a cost benefit analysis when we're doing environmental reviews under state, county and town regulations?
That's a federal requirement.
It's a federal requirement, so it doesn't apply to the local implementation.
Transportation relies on DOT to do that. for
Right.
Transportation projects.
Right. But if we've got, we're talking about, you're talking about what's going to happen economically if these, to take property out of private domain into public domain. And is there a process through environmental quality review or through some other way to do the cost benefit analysis?
FEMA also has a cost
Yes.
benefit analysis requirement, but again, these are federal.
These are federal, so we
Yeah.
don't have anything at the state, county, or local levels.
Not at the county that I'm aware of, but I'm,
Yeah.
so to speak.
I think with
Okay.
the vulnerability assessment, the first step, I'm just there's so many things to consider with the outcome of that. And the first priority really is probably our roads and our infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then there's another conversation that happens about the actual properties and the private land. That's something I see in the development process when someone comes in and they say, oh, we want to do this with this. I pull up the vulnerability assessment.
Yeah.
Well, let's just think about that for a minute, because I do know that in maybe 40 years, depending on science and how things go, we may be buying your property back. So, but I think the first step, since we just accepted the vulnerability assessment last year, I think council's really got to get through the big ones, and then we're gonna get smaller. So just staff is trying to full circle it. When we get opportunities, we might not have necessarily regulations or rules, but we are trying to create awareness.
So you're having sort of filters.
Right, we're having these conversations. I'm like, let me turn this on for you,
Yeah.
show you what 2050 looks like.
And on that note, I will say that at the council and staff levels, I've been really struck by how since the vulnerability assessment was delivered, that it really has been referenced a lot. And it's come up in public conversations too. So it definitely is not, hopefully that's encouraging for you to hear that it hasn't just been put on a shelf, but people really are looking at all these different things through that lens. So
When I think long range planning.
yeah.
That's where I
Yeah.
go to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and a great example is Higgins Beach is an actual growth area on our comprehensive plan, so we
Oh,
want to
I
increase
know.
that.
Yep,
Okay.
okay, so there we go.
Growth
See, that was
areas are
one of my things, was like
Yeah.
modifying the comprehensive plan. I know it was
Right.
just passed in 2021, what modifications need to be made? Clearly, we have
It's
some to
pretty-
make.
But
Yeah.
just to
Yes.
make sure everybody's not freaked out about Higgins Beach, there's specific language in there that talks about the fact that they're probably at capacity and some other things, so it's not,
Well,
it's modified.
the problem with Higgins Beach being a growth area, there's language, but LD 1829 applies new rules to things.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to
Right.
imagine that there might be even room to add, but there is room to add.
Yes,
And I'm not surprised that Higgins
ADUs.
Beach is a designated area, because honestly, that's the Achilles heel of comprehensive plans, is because decades ago, they put all these designated growth areas around environmentally sensitive areas. Look at Higgins.
Yeah.
Where's everything draining to?
Mhm.
Right to the marsh. You go to any public works facility in the state of Maine,
They're
and they
right.
were all built on the edge of wetlands because that was cheap money back in the 40s and 50s. And that's what they kept doing, is encroaching on those wetlands and not
And
understanding.
they didn't have an understanding of wetlands and
yeah.
whatever.
And
There were
the cost
swamps.
benefit.
They were swamps, right?
Right.
So I'm not surprised at all, but I'm glad to hear that we're modifying the comprehensive plan in that
Yeah.
way, but I'm not
We're,
sure.
we're considering
Get
it
it.
on the table.
Yeah.
Peter has his hands up, and then I'm gonna move on to the next
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I guess what I say is this has been an interesting conversation and a valuable one in certain ways, but it's not struck me as being a long range planning conversation. I'd like to get us back on long range planning issues and specifically what we're mandated to do under state statute and our ordinance, which is focus on what we can do to modify the zoning ordinance in way and the ordinances of the town in ways that are meaningful for both the comprehensive plan and to implement state law. We're getting really far afield, and I just don't want LRPC becomes less valuable if we're a debating society. So I'll
Sorry, I gotta call you on this, Peter. How is long range planning not looking at vulnerability in 2050?
well, no, my
How is
point
that
on
not
is that's
long-range planning?
we need to take the input of the conservation committee and other areas that are looking in detail at that because we're not. I'll be honest, Robin. I don't think we're competent to make decisions about that type of environmental science. We have to take that from other groups in the town, both at staff and other committees that are given that mission, and then we.
Okay. You're telling us who you are, Peter. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna
Together
move.
we achieve.
To the
I'm not
next.
sure how to hold on a second. I'm not sure how to take that, Robin. What do you mean by that?
No.
Point of order, right?
Point of
Yeah.
order.
To everyone's point, the long range committee has this really beneficial thing that we look at everything. And I look at my role as the planning director to look at everything.
Yeah.
The comp plan relates to traffic, it relates to public safety, it relates to all those things. And there's a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint in your packet, and we're not gonna go through it today, but it's for your information to read and to educate yourself on. Our comp plan, we've made a lot of progress in the last few years, and we still have some things. But I think everybody's a little bit right. We have these specific things that we fix at a time, and we have very philosophical discussions also that are really appropriate. So I think that's why I wanted you to see the town council goals, because these philosophical discussions are good, but now we're gonna move on to mobile food vendors.
Is that short term or not?
This one, okay, so just a little background. This is a request that I thought, since we are a new group together, we have some new membership, we lost some institutional knowledge. I thought this might be an easy task, and because we have been working on a long range zoning sort of discussion. We've had, for the new folks, we've had some really good interactive exercises and some visioning sort of for our ordinances. So if we get to that, we'll get to it, but I did want to see if we could knock out this mobile food vendor item that came to us. Originally, it was gonna go to ordinance committee, but ordinance committee asked for it to come to long range just for some input, because this group helped draft the original one. And so let me share my screen. Let me see if I can get this to work. Let's see. You all see my screen online? So I'll just open up this memo that shows, so in 2024, we started working on this with this group. There was a mobile food vendor is essentially a food truck, right? And this group, we drafted two different versions. So we drafted this mobile food vendor court, which was essentially a two or more, and it's more of a permanent situation. It's not the driving your truck from place to place. But we also contemplated a mobile food vendor site, and that would be a location that could allow one mobile food vendor. And so we drafted regulations. What moved forward ultimately out of this committee was just the court. And we thought, well, we'll see how the court works out and see if we want to address it any further. Since then, we have not received any applications for the mobile food vendor court. That actually has to go through our site plan process. And so, sorry, I didn't move my screen down. And so we have that in place. It's been adopted for a year. We haven't seen any activity. But in the meantime, throughout that, we also created a mobile food vendor registration license requirement. So we are requiring licensing from those people, but it seems a bit, I won't say unfair, but it seems a bit onerous because we don't actually have anywhere for them to set up except for special events or private events. And so we don't allow, a taco vendor to set up anywhere outside of maybe our town festivals or for a private event. And so came back to us a request to look at this to allow that. And so now I'll share back again. Let's see. This. And so
Autumn, on private property, like if I were having a, say, graduation party, I can have as many as I want and my like,
you
I,
can,
okay.
you can go through, they have to be licensed and you have to go through an event. If it's gonna be a huge event, but yes, you can do that.
Okay.
So the amendments.
Party at Michelle's house.
I was gonna say, I'll have to ask Scott and Diane.
So this is the definition. So mobile food vendor is defined, and mobile food vendor court is currently defined. And so the mobile food vendor site is the same definition that we talked about in 2024. So essentially it is a site with one mobile food vendor located on the property. It's an accessory use, and then this is a use that's created in a zoning district, so it's only allowed in specific districts. And they still have to have some performance standards. So the mobile food vendor site was going to be permitted in our TBC districts, Crossroads Plan Development District, Heights Parkway, and then the business districts and the industrial park. The industrial park is the one I think it's really appropriate for. You have people working and there's.
It's desert.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
And so the mobile food vendor court is already permitted with some conditions in these areas, but the site was.
Autumn, have we done outreach to the brick and mortar?
Yes, we did in 2024. We did, Karen and I did direct outreach.
And we do know that there's at least one person wasn't concerned about the court, but was concerned about the single site. So we'll reach out to that person again. And their concerns were about, they just want to make sure that they have to follow at least some of the same rules that they do. Well, no, in terms of setbacks and other types of things.
But when we did reach out, we did have this contemplated as well. We reached out with the idea of both.
Because in the community I work in, it's a tremendous push pull. The food trucks and the brick and mortars and especially those around or in the industrial parks could be just really.
We don't have any food around.
I know.
You know what I mean? Like around a lot of our industrial,
well, it's the peripheral, it's the Kieran, it's the, was it the mac and cheese or whatever, it's the Al's.
That's where Kieran is now.
It's, it's a number of businesses that are doing well and we don't want them to struggle.
Right. And we'll reach out again with the single court ordinance, and in particular, the one person that did get back to us originally, we'll make a phone call and make sure that we understand.
Just remind me, how many industrial parks are we talking about here?
2.
So,
and then we have the 2 and then the light industrial district.
Are we talking Pleasant Hill? Okay, and we're talking down Washington. Okay.
That's industrial.
Didn't Maine Health want to do something on their property?
What?
Say that again.
Maine Health, yes.
Didn't Maine Health want to do something on their property?
They do it under a private.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, they already do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not, they're not allowed, when we see them advertising to the public, we shut that down.
Yeah.
No,
Okay, got it.
Think like employee gate,
Right.
things like that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I would just respectfully, and again, I'm just a liaison, but, there are a lot of examples like this where there are really valid concerns and considerations, but I would suggest that for this body, focus should be on sort of the land use regulatory implications, and you not get too into the weeds on the market and competition.
we
I
become
mean, I can
poor.
understand those, I think there are some valid concerns there, but
Yeah.
just put that out there.
Yeah.
Corey,
Autumn,
I think though, with that in mind, the comp plan does talk to the idea about expanding the business environment in town. So it does kind of fall into that sort of comp plan remit, as we talk
Yes,
about
it's
that.
absolutely relevant. Yep. Yep.
Autumn, the only question I had was where it says that, the town clerk would notify the applicant within 10 days, business days.
Mhm.
That seemed long to me. So I don't know, why 10 days and not 5 days? It's just, I'm thinking if I'm a business and I'm waiting for a response and then I don't hear anything for basically 2 weeks, how does that sort of impact, like an event
Well, this would not be for an event. This would be for a site. So the person owning this site, maybe, so whoever owns Tractor Supply.
yeah,
They would come in and apply to be able to be a mobile food vendor site.
okay,
And so they could still have their event.
yeah,
Through the event process, but if they wanted to be a permanent site,
Yeah.
always have someone
okay,
able to
permanent.
come in. Right, and it takes 10 days because it has to go out to planning. and
Okay,
Public safety for everybody to weigh
Okay,
in on
yeah.
all of their, that's,
okay,
And
great.
it
Thank
is
you. I had the
open to
same
the
question,
public.
so.
Yeah, what's
I
that?
had the same question.
Yeah.
so.
yeah, that's what the thinking was.
Okay.
And 10 business days seems to be our typical
Yeah.
turnaround time for
Yeah.
things.
Okay.
It seems to be pretty reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
And the one question I didn't see in here, maybe I missed it. If they wanted to have a picnic table where people stay, I'm assuming they can't do that?
That's a great, let's see.
Like to actually eat the food.
Yeah, right. Particularly during the summer and things like that.
I think as long as you have space for it, that would be completely appropriate, but we could definitely address that. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's one of the questions.
on site.
Yeah, and that way, the question then would be, does that affect parking needs?
Right, and we do
Yeah.
have parking, let's
Yeah,
see, we
for
have-
ADA.
Yeah.
There's an ADA designation.
They're not permitted with the ADA
Right.
festival, they
And you
have
got
to
3 parking
also,
spaces?
right,
Yeah, number 6, at least 3 off-street parking
Yeah.
spaces.
so you have to have enough room for it,
Mhm.
but I think that's a great. We could definitely, how does everyone feel about adding something about on-site eating is, I mean.
I think
Somebody's gonna do
Yeah,
it.
somebody's gonna do it, and I think if we're okay with it, it's better to have it in writing than to,
Right.
than to have, the
Yeah.
next group come through here and say, no, they never intended that, and then
Yeah.
we
There's
consternate.
one, and I kind of got the idea of the site from Kennebunk where I live. There's a parking lot that only half of it's relatively used, and there's
I know.
a hot dog.
Yeah.
Picnic table,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a staple in the,
Yeah,
and
okay.
it's
I like
not hurting anything.
Yeah.
It actually is great for people walking
Right.
downtown to other places.
Yeah, I like that.
My only question is, this is gonna be on private property.
Right.
So there's no burden as far as trash and other
Right.
things to the public services.
Correct. Yeah, it all has to be taken care of.
Mm.
And there's no requirement for restroom access.
Not
Yeah,
for the, not.
Right,
Yeah.
under court, yes,
The
but.
food
it's
court
inside.
has the restroom and
Yeah.
everything.
All the
Yeah.
boards.
This is
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
And are we sure we wanna limit it to one mobile food vendor for long?
Well, it's a.
I think so.
talking about a food court.
Yeah, then you get,
Yeah,
then you're getting.
now you're getting more support.
I think that was the idea, so it wouldn't be this competition. and
Yeah.
Proliferation of food
Yeah.
trucks at a big
Yeah.
industrial parking lot, you
Yeah.
know, it's just one was different. And then
Do
if you
we-
wanted to do a court, like a Cogden sort of thing, you come through the process.
Do we have any mobile food courts yet?
No.
I remember, this all started when I was still on the council, and I
Mhm.
kind of lost track of
Yeah.
what's going on.
The Downs actually was going
I
to
was
do
gonna say
one
something
in
like
their open green space that everybody's like the square. And then when they went through, I think that they found out all of the state requirements for
Mm.
the restrooms and all the.
Oh,
facilities that
okay,
came
yeah,
with it,
yeah,
cost prohibitive. We've talked about doing one over there in the Allagash parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
as a
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of initial, but it hasn't come to fruition at all. So, and I haven't
And-
spoken to anyone else.
And
about
I
to
heard,
do one.
I've heard rumors about on the barn that big.
That's probably
that
me
big.
going, that'd be a great spot. I bet I.
Oh, maybe that's
Yeah.
right. I heard that. I was like, hey,
You know, that might be a great spot.
They put their rental service out there, they.
Like on the
pick up
Vine could
tons of
almost have their
business.
own out there.
Exactly.
they got
probably
so
would-
much excess
They
space. yeah.
Probably wouldn't want to have competition on their own parking lot.
Right.
But that's a great example.
Yeah,
of
well, it's in a
where-
business extension, so.
And
They can do it themselves.
that's, yeah, that's what, you know, a lot of the restaurants have talked about having their own, you know, express service
Yeah.
or something like that in a,
That's why you'd want a picnic table.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
What am I seeing that number 9 might be missing a word? Appropriate skill control and countermeasures plan with sufficient materials to address typical releases shall be provided.
Sure, yeah.
The rest typical
Releases, is that? the one?
Releases.
messes.
Future intervention.
Yeah.
Mm.
Are you on pretty general consensus with where these would be permitted? Or do you have any concerns about the TDC districts or?
Has the town engineer reviewed and approved? And does she have any issues with any of?
Not there, but she usually doesn't look at.
He doesn't, okay.
When a site is determined, I'm just thinking of egress of emergency vehicles, would that be taken into account when?
That would be part of that review.
A part of the
If they-
10-day
if they
review,
make
got
sure,
it,
like,
just,
hey, you might think you have plenty of space, but you actually
Yeah.
don't, because we can't get in there.
Got it.
So, right, that's part of that 10-day review.
and that's under number 3, great, yep. Just keep reading.
No, yeah, it's just, this is great, because it's good to talk about all the different. You know, you think, oh, just do a food truck, how hard can it be?
Right.
But there are things.
Yeah.
As
And-
with everything.
This is a little bit of additional background. This is partly the result of some conversations that Councilor Kane had as part of our conversations with counselors
Yeah.
back in the fall. And there was some feedback about barriers to entry for like individual businesses that may not have the interest or the capacity to do a food court, but would want to do a
Mhm.
one-off truck. So just trying to kind of be responsive to that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Peter, you
Yeah.
have your hand up?
I do, and maybe this is meant to be done in the color coding you've got. But we're moving to thinking about conceptually zones in a little different way. Or in our past couple of sessions. It would be helpful to understand where these would map for the food courts on these new concepts of zones that we've talked about. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, we're just not there yet. I'll
Yeah.
give you, I'm going through, so. Our last item, I don't think we'll get to, is really, we've been talking about, we have 25 zoning districts and overlays now, we've been conceptually talking about 9 districts, and it's been really hard, but we've done a really good job of just conceptualizing, like what our ideal town zoning districts might look like. And to Peter's point, on the staff side, I am almost ready to marry the two. I've got, taken our 25 zoning districts, and the majority of them created this consolidated use table, because it's really hard the way it's set up now to tell where things are allowed in 300 pages of documents. So I have, a consolidated use table, a consolidated conditions, table, if you will, that has gone through ordinance committee, and it's going through council. I've been saving it for short-term rentals because I'm putting short-term rentals in the same format. But Peter, once we get that through, then this group, I'll bring that back and we can kind of have that overlay.
No, and Autumn, I was thinking more of it is this makes that new thing come alive when we look at something like the mobile food vendors set against that landscape. So that's really more what I was thinking about. It helps us really see how we would adjust our thinking as we move to a different kind of thing. And I know it's currently in process, and I know it's still doing it, but I just think it might be a valuable pedagogical tool for us to use as we move to a new format.
I think I understand what you're saying.
By the way, kudos and congratulations on morphing those 25 into 9. That's a huge amount of.
No, I'm doing that. Well, yeah, that's what we're still trying to do. Yeah, that's what you all are doing,
I know, but
but yeah,
you're doing the hard work of putting it all there, so thank you.
and
and
my
you
brain
can't
does
ever
spin
leave.
a lot.
Only imagine.
10 different
I've got
descriptions of
a certain
retail.
amount of time before retirement and I have a list.
And then the only other comment I'd say is, I bring this up every now and again, the colorblind guy in the room can't read the left half of the
Oh, that's right, I forgot
No.
about that.
yeah.
And Pete, sorry, this is framed up with like red lines for council. Maybe I can make that bold. Yeah,
So, but that's me. So thank you.
thank you. All right, so with that, are you all interested in making a recommendation to ordinance committee concerning this? So I've got that to add some clarification to number 9. I've got that, just on a side note, not for the ordinance, we're gonna reach out again to the people that we spoke about originally. And then we want to add some language for on-site eating being appropriate if parking if space allows. All right, so typically when we make a recommendation, we'll do a motion and a second, and then we'll actually vote on it. We do a lot of meetings where we don't have any action items, but this one, I think, if we want to move it to ordinance committee, it'd be preferred to have a recommendation.
I think as long as we're unanimous, could we say that we were unanimous and send
Sure.
it along to council? Is anyone opposed to that?
Like similar to kind of like an advisory opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Peter, you good with that? Okay, great. All right, thank you all.
Well, that was easy.
See, I told you food vendors are.
That was easy.
Everybody likes tacos and great. Right.
They are always easy.
Thanks, girl. Let's see. So the next item I have is to talk about,
Oh, did we do the public comment?
oh.
Oh, yeah, that's
We
right.
didn't.
Anyone wishing to
Do we have any
comment?
public?
Oh, gosh. Stop.
You did the public comment.
In the very.
We
No, no,
but
this,
here.
you get a public comment over each item.
Does anyone have any public comment? No, see, no one close. Good catch, Robin. Let's see, let's go back to this. So the next item, I wanted you all to have the schedule for this year, just quickly. We meet the second Friday of every month. Typically, we meet in that space, but they're renovating, so we're in this
Yeah.
space. We will never meet at public safety. You will always be here. And the meetings are from 8 to 9:30, and we always try to have staff out in front to let you in. And so, other than that, that's just for your information. Typically, I do it every time. The Friday before the meeting, I'll send out the agenda and the link and
Thank
everything
you.
for you. Sometimes get it ahead and put it on your calendar early, just to hold it, but that's what that is. Any questions about that or anything? Okay.
I
And
guess
then the next,
Autumn, let me ask another one. We have a number of new board members. We have new council members. This has always been an 8 a.m. Friday meeting, but that was largely because of the needs of Rick and Alan. I love it. I love the 8 a.m. on Fridays, but if people have other preferences for time, I think this might be a time to offer up another scheduling time. Like I said, I don't want to. I love the 8 a.m. Fridays, but I also know some of the history on it, so I just want to make that comment.
I am not a morning person.
Neither am I.
It's not my favorite time, but that's okay, I can live with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Once a month does not count.
I was a newspaper reporter. My first newspaper job, I worked 3 p.m. to midnight. I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
You're a night owl, like me. see?
Got it.
I think we'll continue on until I hear, we had tried Wednesdays for a little bit last time, I don't know, a year or
Yeah.
two ago, and it didn't work.
Wednesdays sucked, yeah.
Yeah, we already have meetings on Wednesdays and Mondays. I don't know.
Just
I
leave
can't
it.
No,
get here terribly
like
early.
I said, Autumn, if there was a strong bias for us to go to like a 4 o'clock or a 6 o'clock meeting time, I just
Oh,
wanted to
hell
no.
No,
No.
no.
Yeah.
No.
I just wanted to give a new board a chance, or a new committee a chance to try something new. I don't want to either. I just wanted to let that be a jump ball.
All right, so Peter's kiboshed on that idea.
I'm not kiboshed. I love the 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh,
Let's be vague.
Peter, thank you for suggesting it. I really appreciate it.
Mhm.
So the next item I have is just, I wanted the comp plan year-end summary and a goal discussion. I just put this in the packet really for the new folks. We talked about it, I think we talked about it in December. But this is a presentation that staff did for council back at the end of last year, really as we went into our council goal setting, just to provide this update on where everything was. The comp plan that has these vision statements, and each of the vision statements has strategies and actions, and what you'll find in this is where we are with each of these. This is just really for informational purposes. If
Okay.
anybody has any questions about that, or there will be a quiz.
Actually, I did have one question on the council's goals is to potentially update or modify the comprehensive plan. The comp plan, though, does get approved by the state. Do we,
Yes.
what can we do? What is a modification of the comp plan looks like in terms of that?
Peter, I honestly have that on my list to find out, because I have never been in a situation where the state has to approve a comp plan, so I have to reach out and find out. It took us a couple of years to get the first one done.
Yes.
Yeah,
A modification would take that long, or?
My understanding when I was working with them to get it certified is, if we do a modification, it does have to go back to the state
Yeah.
to determine conformity. So as long as we are within those like multiple state goals and we're following those, I don't anticipate that there would be a problem. I think it's all in how they're presented and making sure that the review process was adequate. But it was talking.
because for our counselors here, we might want to think about what we say when we say modify the comp plan. Because if that triggers a 2-year state review process with the ability of the state to kick things out, maybe there's another way we can phrase things, or we can go about what we're saying that doesn't trigger a review by the state.
Well, the good news on that is, even if it took longer for them to do it, it doesn't invalidate the existing comp plan. So
Right, yep.
we would still have a valid comp plan while that
I remember
process
that from the last one. Our comp plan lives until it's superseded by a newly reviewed and approved comp plan. So
It also doesn't preclude us, it
Right.
also doesn't preclude us from making changes to ordinances
Right.
in the meantime.
correct.
Right.
Yeah,
But like I said, when you put the language modify comp plan on your goals, I worry about what that might trigger. So Corey, that was a good point.
yeah, and it is, in the state, as we've seen, it can be unpredictable. I mean, we went through a
Yeah.
period when I was on long range, before under the previous, and there was a previous gubernatorial administration. They weren't even reviewing,
Right.
they weren't even looking at comp plans. It was not a priority. So you just never know from year to year,
It is.
administration to administration, but we have to operate under the assumption that that process will,
And.
We should do what we need to do for us.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I will let you know that because it is the end of a governor's term. And so many people in the legislature are running for seats other than their own, that it's a mess up there right now. And department heads because I was part of this when I worked for governor thousands of years ago, is that they're leaving, they're gonna be leaving, they're going to a new job, so it's an uproar up there. So just keep that in mind too. It's not gonna be
Yeah.
very efficient.
No, well.
All right.
Is it very?
Not good.
I have one last thing. We're really close to time. I'm just going to share my screen one more time and show this to you for the new. Do I have any public comment? Seeing none, go. Maybe we'll get rid of this public comment on
They're not
everything.
morning people.
Maybe that's too
Or their
steep.
work.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so we have been working on in this group for the past several months as we've got to this very hard to read on my screen spreadsheet of these 9 philosophical conceptual zoning districts that really try to capture what we have in the town. And so the next step, we've got to a really good spot where we, for the most part, we've got these uses defined and where we think they should go. And so like this is one a little easier to see, but we have conservation uses, ag uses, play outside, all of these types of things. And so the next thing that I think we'll do for this is we'll bring in our existing use table that I've got now and sort of compare it side by side. And then the goal would be to say, okay, TVC and TVC2 now become neighborhood center or neighborhood residential. Or maybe we find that we need to add a 10th district. That's okay too. There's no right or wrong. It's just really about consolidating. The consolidation is really, really helpful because it sees the minutia that exists between the different districts. It may be that in one district you can do 2,000 square foot retail, but this one you can do 5,000 square foot. Is there a significant difference worthy of having a whole different district? So those kind of conversations. So once I get that done, it'll make this process really easy. So that's probably what we'll focus on for next time. Is seeing how that and get back on track with these.
I love that.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions as you go through this, this is all still the conceptual. So none of this exists. But if you do want to look at what the existing looks like, you can go to ordinance committee for January. Or I can send you, it's a huge document too.
Would you just share?
23 zoning districts that I have to amend. And yeah, I can share it too.
Yeah, if you just share it, that'd be great.
I think anytime you can simplify anything.
Yes.
It's, at least in my brain, it's the right, I think for people that don't generally do this on a committee or, I think it just simplifies so people understand. And have the attention span, frankly, to go through it. I think going through what you just said, people are gonna get to number 5 and be like, forget it.
Right.
So I think that's great.
After we get through this process, my long-term goal is for us to have a unified development code, and that's where we bring in the subdivision ordinance, and the zoning ordinance, and the we have some stormwater chapters and all of that into one thing. And then we can codify it and it's all searchable. And so it's the idea to add some illustrations. I love that. So
from a staff perspective, having an understandable zoning ordinance reduces the number of calls because right now everybody calls on everything because
they're
like
confused.
retail is allowed, but there's like 5 stipulations that are different in each zone about, you can do retail, but you can do office, but.
An example, and I don't think I even knew retail is allowed in all these districts, but a lot of the words will say retail excluding car wash and automotive repair. Well, car wash and automotive repair is actually in the definition. So then you have to go back to the definition for the districts that don't say excluding to say, yep, you can actually do it. So with these changes, car wash and automotive repair is now its own independent use, and it's just very clear.
Yeah,
so
that will cut down on
so many calls. I think it'll save us some time.
Yeah. Great.
All right, now we go on to committee and staff update. And this is where I always say I had talked enough, and so I turn it over to Helen and Karen as staff first.
I don't think I have any big.
Planning board, maybe, since we don't have our planning board person?
Yeah, true. So planning board, we have a meeting, not next week, but the week following, and we only have 2 items. One is just a reapproval of the Sawyer Road subdivision, which I think is just 4 lots, it's fairly small, and they're just working on stormwater details.
Do you think that that's the leading edge of development for all of Sawyer?
What?
That, you said it's very small,
Mhm.
but do you think it will become the leading edge, like a wedge that will lead to greater development on Sawyer Road?
That's a good question. I think it depends on what ends up being available for development over there. This, I think, is a really good example of infill in the case of Sawyer, just because there are some smaller lots over there. So I think this was more of an opportunity for infill in this specific case. So, but it is only the 4 lots. So reapproval there, and then 40 Higas is up for preliminary subdivision. review. We did their amended master plan a couple months ago, so they're just that process.
That's where the Sid Harvey
Yeah.
building is.
Yeah,
It's
this is
gonna do
basically that.
4 more
Mhm.
buildings.
I think 5 buildings, 4
Four
lots.
lots.
Yeah. Yeah, mixed, industrial, commercial office.
For Sitco, our February meeting is chock full of boring administrative stuff that just has to get done. Audit and other things. March is gonna be more interesting for our board because we're gonna come back and start looking at least a few sections of this capacity analysis that we're talking about. Some of it is looking at not competition, but how we compare to other towns. I don't think we really, yeah, I know, but I like to think of it as when we're talking about economic development, when somebody is coming forward, we want to find, regardless of the town, the best place for someone because we want businesses to succeed in the region. And sometimes that we may not be the appropriate town for some types of businesses. So that's what we're trying to look at. And I think all the other economic development folks, really feel similarly. We want to do the best job we can to make sure somebody is successful as well as the town being successful. So those are some of the types of things that we'll be talking about. I've spent a lot of time with the Westbrook Economic Development Director over the last month or so. So we've been coordinating and doing some other work that way.
Question for, how often do we say yes and no? Meaning, if 10 deals come, I'm just wondering, like, what is the percentage of like green light, red light?
We don't really say yes or no. If it's an allowed use, you just go through our process. There's a lot of.
Okay.
A lot of people drop out during before it ever gets to the
Okay.
planning
Right.
board.
Okay.
Certainly my experience on the planning board, I think I think of one time, and I've talked about this before, one time that the planning board actually voted a project down.
Okay.
Right.
For, public safety reasons. Usually they come in and just talk to staff and decide it's not gonna work. Or they might go to sketch plan review at the planning board and see that there are just too many issues to work through.
Right.
We'll have people come in when they're in their due diligence phase, and
Mhm.
we do have a lot of no's that happen at that point, but it's
Okay.
not because of anything. It's because of our rules.
Yeah.
Right.
And all of the constraints and maybe the property that they've selected.
Okay, so a lot of barriers and they back out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the most recent example is we had somebody who wanted to develop on a property. It was going to require a zone change, but that was less of an issue than when they understood that there had to be some like 9 months of compact preload. They said, thanks, but no thanks.
Okay.
We're gonna do that. We're moving on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And one example I could think of with this particular committee was last year, there's some interest. Someone came in
The gun.
and was
yeah.
interested in an
Oh,
indoor gun range.
Mhm.
A few of you will remember that this committee basically said, we're not really interested in pursuing that use, and it just kind of stopped
Right.
there.
Right.
A good example.
I think, and Autumn and I certainly give people a sense of, because we get asked all the time, will the town approve this? And I said, well, it's up to the council, number one, but here are the obstacles that I see, and here are the reasons that I think the council probably would not approve that, but you have the right to move that forward if you want to.
Okay.
When I lived in Suffolk County in Port Jefferson, which is an incorporated village, one of the things that would happen would be a developer would come before the staff for the planning board to review, and the staff would review the plans. A member of the public could not see those plans without filing a FOIA request. And so by the time it got before whatever the regulatory board was, the staff had already had a vested interest in the developer's plans. And would.
We don't have that. So
Yeah, we don't have
yeah,
that.
vested interest.
Great.
Yeah.
Everything's open.
Except for.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
and
Much to the
everything,
developer's
you can, it's
dismay.
all very public.
I wrote an essay on
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it's all online and it's all available. We don't require FOIAs for things like that.
God,
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Detaching from outcomes is a must, but
Yeah.
I think I just wanna ask, about the capacity analysis, Karen. I think economic development is very personal for each municipality.
For sure.
You know, and I think that when you're in a community like Scarborough, like versus Westbrook, you know, where you have an old mill town that's gonna be very aggressive
Right.
about economic development, versus a town that has a marsh to think about and has, a residential sort of, appeal. I think it's very different. So are you also addressing those? I mean, I know you're trying to level the field as what this town has for capacity and that town has and sort of.
Yeah, just, you know,
to
the
that.
job is not to level the field, but the job is to understand the field, and those are two different things. We've always said to folks, and I think Autumn probably has had the same conversation. Scarborough's not for everybody.
Right.
We have complex situations in terms of the environment, in terms of the way we have our land use done. So we have a complex environment. And so that's really what we're trying to lay out. Let's understand, you know, where we have differences and being able to have my board be able to say why we're complex. So that's part of it, is let's understand where we are, but let's understand why we're different.
And so I'm just trying to understand that we're not trying to compete with
We are trying to understand.
and regionally sort of collaborate.
Absolutely. We actually, long ago, well, I'm sorry, this is taking up too much time. We want to get around the table, but I think that's something that we can certainly talk about at some other time. But we do have a formal arrangement with other communities in terms of how we compete and how we work together. And the rule is we're not really competing.
Super glad to hear it. Thank you.
We're a holistic region.
You're educating each other.
Yes, yes.
So I think we've pretty well covered a lot of what's going on with the council. We will certainly, certainly stay tuned on the LD 1829/2173. And we're getting into our budget season as well. That'll have implications for infrastructure and other things. But welcome to everybody. Thank you.
I don't have anything to add at the moment, but thank you to folks from the public who are willing to serve on this. It's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say welcome to the new members and welcome also to counselors. And I don't have anything because I've literally been living under a rock and recovering from surgery.
Totally understand.
Thanks.
I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah, and thank you for the grace for my absence for the last months.
And welcome to everybody. I'm a lowly alternate. It's
You're not Lola, you'd be used a lot. I'm warning you, as having been the alternate.
It's been a learning about, the different committees and especially this one. It looks like it's gonna be, not just challenging, but exciting,
We're all so shy.
Well, yes, I guess.
Yeah, really.
Planning board too, right? No.
Goodness.
That's Karen, but.
Oh, Brian, Ed, you're Brian,
Dropped
that
out.
type of guy, planning board.
No,
No.
no.
And then Peter has.
And Peter,
Yeah, nothing really to update, folks. We've talked about what's going on in transportation committee, so no updates there beyond that. And zoning board, nothing to note on trends or any like. I would just say it's good to see Robin back in person. Glad to see you back, Robin. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you next month in person.
awesome. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Fantastic. And we will see you on the next Friday, the 13th of June.
Oh, this is a Friday the 13th.
Yes, it is.
So it's